33 videos, 17.8 million views, and one of those videos alone has 7.8 million. This is Zen. And the crazy part is, when you look at the channel, the videos seem ridiculously simple. Simple stick figures, simple backgrounds, almost no visual complexity. So why are millions of people watching them? And more importantly, can we steal the system, automate the production, and build our own version from scratch? Because this isn't just a channel breakdown. I'm going to reverse engineer the entire machine. How the ideas are chosen, how the scripts are built, how the voice is generated, how the images are created, how those images become videos, and how much of it we can automate with Claude, Higgsfield, and MCP. And I'm not stopping at theory. We're actually going to build the workflow.
Meet our stickman. He's standing in front of a mirror, admiring a shiny new watch on his wrist. He smiles, feeling proud. This looks amazing, he thinks, puffing his chest out. But that watch cost him 3 months of savings. Outside, he walks past a car dealership. He stops, eyes wide, staring at a sleek new car in the window. If I drive that, everyone will respect me, he tells himself, nodding confidently. He signs.
This is where the workflow really starts to change. First, install Cloud Code on your computer. Just download the version for your operating system, install it, and open it. But before we generate anything, there's one connection we need to make. And this is what lets Cloud Code work with Higgsfield behind the scenes. Head over to Higgsfield and open the MCP and CLI section. What you're looking for is the MCP connector. Copy that connector, then bring it back into Cloud Code. From there, open your profile settings, go to Connectors, add a custom connector, give it a simple name like Higgsfield, and paste in the connector you copied. Once you save it, the important part is done. Cloud Code is now connected to Higgsfield. So from this point on, when the workflow needs Higgsfield to generate an image, Cloud Code can handle that connection for you in the background. You set it up once, and you don't have to keep repeating the process. And now that the connection is live, before we make the video, we need the right idea. So instead of asking ChatGPT for random finance topics, I'm giving it a much harder job. Find ideas people feel compelled to click. First, I open the Google Doc and copy the compelling content ideas master prompt into ChatGPT. But before I generate anything, there's one important choice: content direction. I'm choosing finance psychology, not generic money advice, but the psychology behind the decisions people make with money. Now, the model generates 10 concepts and scores them for CTR, curiosity, emotional impact, uniqueness, relevance, and retention. And that changes everything. We're no longer choosing from a pile of titles. We're looking for a concept with a built-in story, like why looking rich can make you poor, instant contradiction, instant curiosity, or why you keep spending more when you're stressed. Now the money problem becomes a psychological problem. That's where a basic finance video becomes a documentary, not 10 good ideas. One idea with enough tension, curiosity, and psychological depth to earn the click, and hold the viewer for the reveal. Now we take the winning idea and move into the content system. I head back to the Google Doc, open Zen Content System, and copy the entire master prompt. Then I open Claude and paste it in. But there's an important safeguard built into this prompt. Claude doesn't start writing blindly. It first checks for two things: the topic and the video length. If either one is missing, it stops and asks for exactly what it needs. That sounds simple, but it prevents a major problem: generating an entire production package before the creative direction is actually locked. Now we go back to ChatGPT, where we generated our content ideas, and choose the story we actually want to build. For this video, I'm choosing why looking rich can make you poor. I copy that idea and take it straight into Claude. But there's one more variable we have to lock before Claude starts creating anything: the runtime. I'm setting this video to 2 minutes. So now Claude has the two things it needs: the story and the time. I hit generate. And now we get the first real production blueprint. Claude doesn't just write a script and stop. It turns our 2-minute idea into 15 connected scenes, with 3 layers for every scene: voiceover, image generation, and animation direction. And the structure is doing something important. We begin with the watch, the symbol of success, then the car, then the loan, then the bills. And finally, the contradiction hits. Looking rich and being rich are two completely different things. That's the storytelling engine. We're not dumping financial advice on the viewer. We're showing a character make a decision, experience the consequence, and discover why it happened. And because the same stickman character carries through every scene, the visuals can evolve without breaking continuity. Only the pose, emotion, props, and situation change. So at this point, the idea isn't just a title anymore. It's a connected production system. Story, narration, visuals, and motion, all mapped to the same narrative. And that is the real payoff of this phase. We didn't just generate content. We turned one idea into something we can actually produce. Now comes the most important part of the workflow: automation. Up to this point, we could generate the images and videos one by one, copying each prompt into the right tool and repeating the process for every scene. That works, but it doesn't scale. So instead, we connected Claude Code to Higgsfield through MCP and turned the production process into an automated pipeline. But before we automate the visuals, we need one thing first: the final voiceover. I ask Claude for the plain voiceover script. Claude returns the clean narration without scene labels, formatting, or production instructions. I copy that script and head into Higgsfield's audio section and open text to speech. First, I choose the voice model I want to use. Then I select the voice. And this is where you have two options. You can create a custom voice by cloning your own voice, or use one of Higgsfield's existing high-quality voices. For this workflow, I'm choosing the voice that best matches the documentary style. Then I paste in the narration and generate the voiceover. And now we have the foundation for the entire automated production pipeline. One locked story, one consistent voice, and a complete scene structure. Now we have the voiceover, but we're not ready to generate visuals yet. There's one critical piece missing: exact timing. I download the voiceover and move it into TurboScribe to create a time-stamped transcript. Why? Because from this point on, every visual needs to match the exact moment the narration is spoken. Once the transcription is finished, we have the full narration mapped to timestamps, giving us the actual rhythm of the story instead of guessing where each scene should begin and end. Now we can build the visuals around the narration, rather than generating random images and trying to force them into the edit later. Next, I open a fresh Claude chat and bring in the image generation master prompt from the Google Doc. But there's another problem we need to solve before generating anything: character consistency. So in visual mode, I choose the reference option. Then I open Pinterest and search Stickman. You'll find a bunch of different character styles here. I choose the one that fits the visual identity of this video, copy it, and give that character to Claude as the reference image. I could also create a completely custom Stickman character, but the key is establishing one clear visual reference before the first image is generated. The important part is that Claude now has a visual source of truth for the entire sequence. Then I bring the time-stamped transcript from TurboScribe into the same workflow and generate. Claude now converts the narration into timestamp-specific image prompts, while preserving the same character, visual language, props, and scene continuity across the sequence. That's a major upgrade from standard prompting. We're no longer saying, "make an image for this scene." We're giving the system three things at once: the narration, the timing, and the visual identity. And that means every image has a job: support the exact line being spoken, at the exact moment it's spoken, inside the same visual world. At the end, Claude asks whether we want to generate the images directly in the chat. Now I simply type "yes" and let the system run. And this is where the workflow starts to get seriously powerful. Because Higgsfield is already connected to Claude through MCP, Claude can use Higgsfield behind the scenes to generate the images for us automatically. So instead of taking each timestamp, copying each prompt, generating every image manually, and repeating that process over and over, the entire visual sequence can be produced from the finished narration inside one connected workflow. One script, one timeline, one automated visual pipeline. But we're not done. The images give us the story frames. Now we need to turn those still images into actual video. So I head back to the Google Doc and open the image to video master prompt. I copy the full prompt and bring it into Claude. But before generating the motion prompts, I also give Claude the time-stamped image prompts we created in the previous step. Now Claude can connect the dots. The narration tells it what should happen, the timestamp tells it when, and the image tells it what the scene already looks like. From that, Claude creates a matching motion prompt for every shot. And notice what it is not doing. We're not adding random camera shakes, aggressive zooms, or flashy AI movement just to make the footage look cinematic. The motion is controlled: slow push-ins, subtle pullbacks, small eye movements, natural blinking, breathing. The goal is simple: create the feeling of motion without destroying the illustration. That distinction matters because the images are already carrying the visual identity of the documentary. The animation should bring those images to life, not completely redesign them. And once the motion prompts are ready, we can finally take the first generated image and turn it into an actual video clip. So for the first scene, I upload the still image into Claude, then copy the matching video generation prompt we created earlier and paste it in. Claude uses the Seedance 2.5 model to turn that still into a video clip using the motion instructions. And this distinction is important. We are not asking the model to redesign the scene. The image is the visual source of truth. The motion prompt only tells the model how that existing scene should move. For this first shot, The camera makes an almost imperceptible push toward the protagonist's raised wrist in the mirror, quietly drawing attention to the watch. At the same time, the character makes only subtle movements, a light breathing motion, and one slow blink, while the pose, outfit, watch, and background stay exactly where they are. That level of control is what keeps the animation from looking like random AI-generated motion. And now Claude asks the question that matters. Do we want to cue the rest of the sequence? I simply type yes. That single confirmation starts the rest of the visual pipeline. Because Higgsfield is already connected to Claude through MCP, Claude can send the remaining scenes through Higgsfield using the Cdance 2.5 model, instead of making us generate every clip manually. So the workflow scales from one test clip to the entire sequence, scene after scene, using the still images and matching motion prompts we already created. And that's the real advantage here. We're not just using AI to make one video clip faster. We've built a workflow where the narration drives the images drive the motion, and the connected tools handle the repetitive generation. Now Claude can cue the remaining shots, and Higgsfield generates the video clips with Cdance 2.5, keeping the production moving without manually repeating the same process for every scene. At this point, the tedious part of production is no longer the bottleneck. And there's another advantage to this workflow. You're not locked into a single video model. If you want to test a different model, you can go directly into Higgsfield and run the same scene manually. I open video, upload the still image, and paste in the matching motion prompt. Then I choose the video model I want to test and configure the remaining settings, including the reference image, so the model has a clear visual source to follow. Then I hit generate. Within a few seconds, the still image is transformed into video version. This is useful because now you can compare different models using the exact same image and motion direction, instead of comparing completely different inputs. That makes model testing much more controlled. The image stays the same. The motion prompt stays the same. Only the generation model changes. So instead of guessing which AI model is best, you can actually test the same shot across different models and choose the result that fits the documentary style best. The workflow stays consistent. The model can change. Now it's time to put everything together. I open the editing software I normally use and bring in the voiceover and all of the animation clips. First, I place the clips on the timeline in the correct order and align them to the timing of the narration. But this is where an important distinction comes in. Generating the footage is not the same as making the video. The AI gives us the raw material. Editing is what turns that material into a story. So I go through the timeline shot by shot, trimming anything that feels too long, tightening the cuts, and making sure every visual lands exactly when the narration calls for it. Then I add captions. They need to be clean, readable, and tightly synced to the voiceover without competing with the visuals. Next come the transitions, and this is one place where less is better. We don't need flashy effects between every shot. Simple cuts, subtle fades, and occasional smooth transitions keep the sequence moving without reminding the viewer that they're watching an edit. Once the voiceover, animation, captions, and transitions are locked together, I watch the entire timeline from beginning to end. I'm looking for anything that breaks the flow, awkward cuts, timing issues, distracting visuals, or inconsistent audio levels. Fix those, and then export the final video. And that's the complete journey. One idea, one script, one voiceover, time-stamped visuals, automated image generation, automated animation, final edit. What makes the workflow powerful is that Higgsfield can handle a large part of the visual production, while the Claude and MCP connection lets the process move from prompts to images and from images to animated clips without rebuilding the workflow from scratch every time. That means less time spent manually generating assets, and more time spent improving the part that actually matters, the story. So if you want to recreate this workflow yourself, check out Higgsfield AI through the link in the description. Set up the MCP connection and follow the process I showed you. You can use the same system to build your own cinematic AI videos without manually creating every scene from scratch. That's the workflow. Now go build something worth watching.
Meet our stickman. He's standing in front of a mirror, admiring a shiny new watch on his wrist. He smiles, feeling proud. This looks amazing, he thinks, puffing his chest out. But that watch cost him 3 months of savings. Outside, he walks past a car dealership. He stops, eyes wide, staring at a sleek new car in the window. If I drive that, everyone will respect me, he tells himself, nodding confidently. He signs papers at a desk, taking on a loan. His hand shakes slightly as he signs, but he hides his worry with a smile. Now he's driving the new car, waving at people on the street. They wave back, impressed. At home that night, he sits alone at his kitchen table, staring at a stack of bills. His shoulders slump. He rubs his temples scrolls, stressed, calculating numbers in his head. The math doesn't add up. Meanwhile, his neighbor walks by in simple clothes, carrying groceries, looking calm and relaxed. Our stickman peeks through the window, confused. You look so plain, but so peaceful, he wonders. Flashback. The neighbor quietly checking a savings account on his laptop, a small, satisfied smile on his face. Back to our stickman. He looks down at his fancy watch, now feeling its weight differently, heavier, uncomfortable. He takes the watch off, setting it on the table, staring at it thoughtfully. He opens a notebook and starts writing a budget, determination in his eyes, sitting up straighter. Final shot. He stands tall again, but this time simply dressed, calm and genuinely smiling, richer on the inside than he ever looked outside.